There was a village beside a mountain river that had never once broken its banks. Then, one night, it did. By dawn, 12 people would be pulled from that water alive because of what one old man refused to do. He refused to panic. What do the calmest people know that most of us learn only after life has exhausted us? It is not how to avoid fear. It is not how to control the storm. They know that when reality changes, most people begin fighting two battles. One is against the danger in front of them. The other is against the fact that the danger exists at all. And the second battle is often the one that drains them. For most of the year, the mountain river moved gently between dark stones and willow roots. The villagers trusted it because it had always behaved as they remembered. Only an old boatman named Ren treated the river differently. He never called it kind. He never called it cruel. He simply watched it. One autumn evening, rain began falling over the mountains. By sunset, the paths had become mud. By midnight, the wind was tearing branches from the trees. Then, somewhere beyond the darkness, the villagers heard a deep, cracking sound. The upper riverbank had broken. Water entered the lowest street like a black animal. Doors burst open. Lanterns swung through the rain. Parents lifted children from their beds. Men shouted instructions that contradicted one another. Liu's grain jars are still in the lower storehouse. The goats are tied beside the mulberry wall. The south footbridge is already underwater. The bank will hold if the rain eases before dawn. But the river was not listening. Within minutes, some people ran, some froze, others searched for someone to blame. Everyone moved away from the water, everyone except Ren. The old boatman came from his hut carrying a coil of rope, a wooden pole, and one small lantern. Then he walked downhill toward the flood. A young carpenter named Wei caught his sleeve. "Where are you going?" "To the lower houses. The current is too strong." "I know." Wei stared at him. Ren was pale. His breathing was shallow. The lantern trembled slightly in his hand. "You are afraid." "Yes." "Then why are you going?" Ren pulled his sleeve free. "Fear has told me what it knows. Now I must look for myself." That was the first thing the village misunderstood about calmness. They believed a calm person felt less fear. But Ren felt the storm in his body. His heart was beating hard. One careless step could be his last. He did not defeat fear. He simply refused to give it the oar. At the lower street, water had reached the windows. An elderly man stood trapped against a wall. Two brothers clung to a persimmon tree. On the roof of a storage shed, a mother held her daughter beneath her robe. Ren did not rush into the water. He stopped. He watched broken baskets and roof tiles move past him. He studied where the current struck the walls, where it curled, and where it weakened behind a stone pillar. Behind him, villagers shouted, "Do something!" Ren kept watching. To frightened eyes, his stillness looked like hesitation. It was attention. You already know this feeling, even if you have never stood beside a flood. It is the moment before you must speak up, make the call, or walk into the room you do not want to enter. Your chest tightens. Your mind tells you to run, freeze, or solve everything at once. That pull is not weakness. It is fear doing what fear has always done. The question was never whether Ren felt it. The question was what he did with it. Panic wants movement before understanding. Calmness allows understanding to choose the movement. Ren tied one end of the rope around the pillar, looped the other around his waist, and stepped sideways into the current. He reached the elderly man first. "Hold my shoulder," Ren said. The man grabbed his neck. "Not my neck, my shoulder. I cannot move." "You are trying to stand against the whole river. Turn sideways." The man obeyed. The water had less of his body to strike. Together, they reached the rope. Then Ren went for the brothers. He threw the rope. It fell short. He pulled it back and threw again. This time, the older boy caught it. "Wrap it around your forearm. Then hold your brother. A branch struck the trunk. Both boys screamed. Ren did not say, "Do not be afraid." He said, "Keep your eyes on the rope." One instruction, one movement, one moment. Soon, both boys were on the stone path. Wei had followed Ren downhill. He stood at the edge of the flood, shaking. "What should I do?" "Hold the lantern still." "That is all?" "That is what is needed now." Wei raised the lantern. Its light revealed a narrow line of calmer water behind a collapsed fence. Ren began moving toward the shed. The mother saw him and shouted, "My daughter cannot swim." "She will not need to." "The roof is breaking." "I can see that." "Please, hurry." Ren looked directly at her. "I will move as quickly as the river allows. If I move as quickly as your fear demands, all three of us will drown." The woman became silent. Ren reached the shed and tied the child against his chest. Then he placed the mother's hands on the rope. "Do not fight every wave," he told her. "Let it pass, then step." Halfway back, a wooden crate struck Ren's knee. He disappeared beneath the water. Wei seized the rope. For one terrible moment, nothing moved. Then Ren surfaced. He coughed, found the riverbed with his pole, and stood again. The old man was not unshaken. He was simply still choosing. The villagers pulled. Ren guided the mother and child into the sheltered current. A moment after they reached the pillar, the roof collapsed and vanished. Before dawn, 12 people had been brought uphill. By then, the villagers moved differently. One held the rope, another carried children, another counted the missing. Blankets waited beneath the temple eaves. Ren's calm had not removed the danger. It had removed the confusion around the danger. And once confusion weakened, courage became useful. Near sunrise, the rain softened. The villagers gathered beneath the temple roof. Ren sat on an overturned basket, wrapping cloth around his injured knee. Wei knelt beside him. "How did you know what the river would do?" "I did not." "You knew where the current was weaker." "After I looked." "Then what did you know before you walked downhill?" Ren looked toward the water. "I knew the river had risen." Wei waited. Ren continued. Everyone else was asking whether it should have risen, whether the bank should have been repaired, whether someone should be punished. Those questions may matter tomorrow, but tonight, the river had already entered the village. He tightened the cloth around his knee. When something has already happened, refusing to accept it does not undo it. It only delays the moment when you can respond. Wei lowered his eyes. "I was afraid." "So was I." "But you did not look afraid." Ren smiled faintly. "My fear was loud." But loud is not the same as wise. The temple became quiet. Then Wei asked, "How do you stop fear from taking control?" Ren lifted the wooden pole. "You do not wait for fear to disappear. You give your hands a truthful task." He pointed toward the river. "Where is the current strongest? Who is still missing? What can be tied down? What is the next step?" He rested the pole across his knees. "Fear can travel with you. It does not have to steer." This was the lesson the village carried long after the houses were rebuilt. Calm people are not untouched by life. They cannot predict every storm. They do not escape fear. They simply learn the difference between pain and resistance. Pain says, "The river has risen." Resistance says, "This river must not be here." Pain asks for courage. Resistance spends that courage arguing with reality. Taoist teachers return to water again and again for this reason. Water does not waste itself demanding a straighter path. It meets the stone. It turns, it gathers, and it continues. Its yielding is not weakness. Its contact with what is present is the source of its power. Acceptance works in the same way. It does not mean approving of what happened. It does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means ending the useless argument with the present, so your strength becomes available for the next wise action. Years later, Wei would tell his own children about that night. He told them about the black water, the trembling lantern, the rope cutting into his hands, and the old boatman who was afraid, but walked downhill anyway. Whenever they asked what Ren had taught him, Wei gave the same answer. He did not wait for fear to leave. He gave his hands something true to do. That is what the calmest 1% appear to know. They do not control more of life than everyone else. They simply return more quickly to 3 questions. What is true now? What is still mine to choose? What is the next truthful task my hands can do? Perhaps a river is already rising somewhere in your life. Perhaps it is not made of water. Perhaps it is uncertainty, grief, change, a decision you have been afraid to make, or a future that no longer looks the way you imagined. Fear will speak first. It usually does. Listen to it. It may carry a warning, but do not confuse its volume with wisdom. You may not be able to control the river, but the river does not get to decide who you become inside it. Hope does not always arrive as certainty. Sometimes hope is one steady breath, one honest conversation, one boundary finally spoken, one small step taken while fear is still walking beside you. You do not need to become fearless before you move forward. You only need to remember who holds the oar. If this story found you at the right moment, I am glad it did. Thank you for giving it a few quiet moments of your life. I hope you remember Ren, the trembling lantern, and the hands that found something true to do whenever your own water begins to rise. I look forward to meeting you again in the next beautiful story. Until then, take care of yourself. And when fear becomes loud,